Welcome to Lesson 4.5 of the Grant Architect course, where we begin exploring the outcomes that demonstrate your program actually makes a difference. In this lesson, we focus on short-term outcomes, the changes in learning that occur as initial results of your program activities. Short-term outcomes represent the first level of change beyond outputs and service delivery. They measure what participants actually learned and gained, not just what services they receive from your program. Understanding short-term outcomes is critical because they form the foundation for all deeper changes your program seeks to achieve. By the end of this lesson, you will understand the 5 categories of short-term outcomes, learn how to measure changes in learning effectively, and understand how short-term outcomes connect logically to deeper behavior and condition changes. Short-term outcomes are changes in participant learning resulting from the program you deliver. They represent the first level of meaningful change beyond service delivery, measuring whether participants actually gained something valuable from their experience with your program. The time frame for short-term outcomes is during or immediately after program participation concludes. These changes happen relatively quickly as a direct result of program exposure and engagement with your services. They are near-term results you can measure soon after services are delivered. Categories of short-term outcomes include awareness, knowledge, attitudes, skills, and opinions, sometimes remembered by the acronym AKASO. These 5 categories represent different dimensions of learning that programs might target depending on their design and goals. The relationship of short-term outcomes to deeper changes is foundational and critical to understand. Learning changes enable behavior changes, which in turn enable condition changes. Short-term outcomes are necessary steps toward the ultimate impact your program seeks to achieve. Awareness outcomes involve becoming conscious of something previously unknown or unrecognized. Awareness is often the very first step in any change process and must occur before other changes can follow. Examples include awareness of available services in the community, health risks from certain behaviors, career opportunities available to participants, community resources that can provide support, or rights and entitlements that participants may not have known about. Programs may focus on raising awareness as an initial objective before moving to deeper learning goals. Measurement typically uses surveys asking if participants know about something they did not know before. Pre- and post questions about awareness can document meaningful change. Simple yes or no or recognition questions work well for measuring awareness outcomes. The limitation to keep in mind is that awareness alone rarely changes behavior directly. Knowing about something does not mean that a person will act on that knowledge. Awareness is a necessary but insufficient condition for meaningful change. Strong logic models show clearly how awareness leads to further outcomes like knowledge, attitude change, and ultimately behavior change. Knowledge outcomes involve gaining factual information or deeper understanding of concepts and relationships. Knowledge goes beyond simple awareness to include comprehension of concepts, facts, and the relationships between different ideas. Examples include knowledge of healthy eating practices and nutrition, job search techniques and strategies, parenting strategies for different developmental stages, financial management and budgeting principles, or workplace safety procedures and protocols. Programs often aim to increase knowledge as a critical foundation for behavior change. Measurement may use tests, quizzes, or demonstrations of understanding to document learning. Pre- and post-testing is the most common approach to measuring knowledge change. Asking participants to explain concepts in their own words or answer factual questions correctly documents meaningful knowledge gain. The limitation is that knowledge does not guarantee application in real life. People often know exactly what they should do, but do not do it consistently. Knowledge is necessary, but not sufficient for behavior change by itself. The gap between knowing and doing is well documented in research across many fields. Attitude outcomes involve changes in beliefs, feelings, or predispositions toward people, ideas, or behaviors. Attitudes are evaluative orientations toward objects, people, behaviors, or concepts that shape how individuals respond to situations. They have 3 interconnected components: cognitive beliefs about what is true, emotional feelings about what matters, and behavioral tendencies about how to act. Examples include attitudes toward help seeking and willingness to ask for assistance, confidence in personal abilities and capacity to succeed, motivation to change current behaviors or circumstances, values about health, education, family, or community, and beliefs about self-efficacy and personal control over outcomes. Programs often target attitude change as a critical pathway to behavior change because what people believe affects what they do. Measurement typically uses scales, measuring agreement with statements, feeling thermometers showing intensity of emotions, or validated attitude instruments with established reliability. Likert scales asking participants to rate agreement from strongly disagree to strongly agree are common and easy to administer. The importance of attitudes is that they often mediate and enable behavior change. Positive attitudes make behavior change more likely and more sustainable over time. Self-efficacy, motivation, and positive expectations are particularly powerful predictors of action. Research consistently shows that people who believe they can succeed are more likely to try and persist. Skill outcomes involve acquiring the ability to perform specific tasks or behaviors competently. Skills are practical capabilities that enable action and represent the how-to knowledge that translates understanding into actual performance in real situations. Unlike knowledge, which is about understanding concepts, skills are about executing actions effectively. Examples include communication skills such as active listening and clear expression, job skills like resume writing, interviewing, and professional networking, parenting skills including positive discipline and developmental support techniques, coping and stress management skills for handling difficult situations, and technical skills for various workplace or life tasks. Measurement may include demonstrations where participants show they can actually perform skills under realistic conditions, performance assessments evaluating skill quality using standardized rubrics, or self-report of skill acquisition through questionnaires. Direct observation by trained evaluators is the strongest measurement approach, but often impractical due to time and cost. Role-playing scenarios offer a middle ground between observation and self-report. The advantage of skills is that they are actionable and directly observable in practice. Unlike awareness or attitudes, which are internal states, skills can be seen in action and verified objectively. They represent concrete capabilities that directly enable behavior change and are often the most practical focus for programs seeking immediate impact on what participants can do. Opinion outcomes involve changes in views, preferences, or stated intentions to act. Opinions are expressed positions on issues, intentions to act in specific ways, or stated preferences between alternatives. They may overlap with attitudes, but are often more specific, concrete, and focused on particular decisions or actions. Examples include opinions about policies, practices, or community issues, behavioral intentions such as planning to quit smoking or intending to exercise regularly, preferences for services, approaches, or options, and commitment to specific goals or action plans. Measurement uses survey questions about views and intentions administered before and after program participation. Intention questions ask what participants plan to do in specific future situations. Opinion questions ask what participants think about specific issues or options. Strength of intention can be measured on a scale. The caution is that stated intentions do not always predict actual behavior reliably. People often intend to do things they never actually do when the time comes. This is called the intention-behavior gap, and it is well documented in research across many behavioral domains. Intentions are better predictors of behavior than attitudes alone, but still imperfect predictors. Programs should not assume that changing intentions will automatically change behavior. Measuring short-term outcomes requires appropriate methods matched to what you are trying to measure. Pre-post design measures outcomes before and after program participation to document change. Change from pre to post suggests program effect, assuming the measurement is valid and reliable. This is the most common approach, but has limitations, including the possibility that change occurred for reasons other than your program. Comparison groups compare participants to non-participants or to a waitlist control group to isolate program effects. If participants change more than the comparison group receiving no services, the program likely caused the difference. This design strengthens causal claims significantly. Validated instruments use established measurement tools with known reliability and validity that have been tested with similar populations. For common outcomes like self-efficacy, depression symptoms, or health knowledge, validated scales already exist and should be used. Using validated instruments strengthens measurement quality and allows comparison to other studies. Attribution connects observed changes to your program specifically rather than to other factors. Could changes have occurred without your program due to maturation, external events, or other services? Addressing alternative explanations strengthens attribution claims and makes your evidence more credible to funders and evaluators. Short-term outcome indicators should meet several important criteria to be useful for evaluation and reporting. Specific indicators precisely define what will be measured with enough detail to ensure consistent measurement across staff and time. Not simply improved knowledge, but rather ability to correctly identify 3 warning signs of stroke from a list of symptoms. Precision enables consistent measurement and clear communication about what success looks like. Measurable indicators allow quantifiable change to be documented with data you can actually collect. You must be able to collect reliable data showing whether the outcome occurred and to what degree. If you cannot measure it, you cannot demonstrate it to funders or stakeholders. Attributable outcomes are plausibly connected to your specific program and its activities. The indicator should measure something your program directly addresses through its services. Changes in areas your program does not address cannot reasonably be attributed to you. Time frame specifies when change will be measured relative to program participation. Immediately after the program, at 3 months follow-up, or at program completion, depending on what makes sense for the outcome. The timing affects what changes can reasonably be detected and whether you have resources to conduct follow-up assessment. Realistic short-term outcomes meet several tests that determine whether your claims are credible to reviewers and achievable in practice. Proportionate outcomes match claims to program intensity and dosage. A 1-hour workshop cannot produce dramatic skill mastery no matter how excellent the content. A year-long intensive program can reasonably achieve more ambitious outcomes. Match your ambition to your actual dosage and intensity. Achievable outcomes are within realistic possibility given your specific program design and participant population. Consider what is actually possible to change in your participant population with your intervention approach, resources, and staffing. Overpromising undermines credibility even if intentions are good. Evidence-informed outcomes are supported by research suggesting these changes are possible with similar interventions. If similar programs have achieved these outcomes with comparable populations, your claim is credible and defensible. If no program has ever achieved them, yours probably will not, either regardless of how innovative you believe your approach to be. Time-appropriate changes can occur within your actual program time frame. Some outcomes require extended time to develop and cannot be rushed. Ensure your short-term outcomes can realistically emerge during or immediately after program participation, rather than requiring months of additional time. Understanding how short-term outcomes connect to deeper change strengthens your logic model. Learning enables action because knowledge and skills make behavior possible. You cannot practice skills you do not have. You cannot make informed decisions without knowledge. Learning is foundational. Attitudes drive motivation because positive attitudes increase action likelihood. Believing you can succeed, wanting to change, and valuing outcomes all increase the probability of behavior change. Cascading effects occur when short-term outcomes contribute to longer-term outcomes. Increased knowledge leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to improved behaviors. Improved behaviors lead to better conditions. Pathway logic connects your short-term outcomes to ultimate impact. Be explicit about how learning changes lead to behavior changes lead to condition changes. This is your theory of change. Presenting short-term outcomes effectively in logic models requires clarity, distinguished from outputs by clearly separating what we did from what changed. Outputs are in one column, outcomes in another. The visual should make this distinction clear. Specify categories by noting whether you are measuring awareness, knowledge, attitudes, skills, or opinions. This precision helps reviewers understand what you expect to change. Include indicators or specific measures for each outcome, not just increased knowledge, but participants correctly identifying at least 3 healthy eating practices. Specificity enables evaluation. Show progression by connecting short-term outcomes to intermediate and long-term outcomes. The visual flow should show how learning changes lead to behavior changes lead to condition changes. Several common mistakes undermine short-term outcome sections. Too ambitious outcomes claim changes beyond program capacity. A brief intervention cannot produce profound transformation. Scale ambition to intensity. Unmeasurable outcomes cannot actually be assessed. Feeling empowered or being more aware may be difficult to measure meaningfully. Choose outcomes you can actually document. Disconnected outcomes are not clearly linked to activities. If your activities do not address the outcome, you cannot claim it. Each outcome should connect to specific activities that produce it. Confused with outputs occurs when listing participation as an outcome. Attending a workshop is an output. Learning something at the workshop is an outcome. Keep these distinct. Here is a practical exercise to apply what you have learned. Step 1. List your program activities from earlier logic model work. Use these as the starting point for identifying outcomes. Step 2. For each activity, identify what participants should learn, what awareness, knowledge, attitudes, skills, or opinions should change as a result of each activity. Step 3. Categorize each learning outcome by type. Is it awareness, knowledge, attitude, skill, or opinion change? This categorization helps clarify what you are measuring. Step 4. Develop at least one measurable indicator for each outcome. How will you know the outcome occurred? What specific measure will document the change? Let us summarize the key points from this lesson. Short-term outcomes are changes in learning resulting from program participation. They represent the first level of change beyond outputs, measuring what participants gained from the experience. Categories include awareness, knowledge, attitudes, skills, and opinions. Each represents a different dimension of learning that programs might target. Measurement approaches include pre-post designs, validated instruments, and specific indicators. Clear measurement enables documentation of program effects. In our next lesson, we will explore intermediate and long-term outcomes, focusing on changes in behavior and condition. These deeper changes represent the ultimate impact programs seek to achieve.